Chapter 7, The Goliath's Shadow. The docking umbilical rattled slightly under their boots as Captain Thren followed Lieutenant Commander Hayes toward the human capital ship. Even walking side by side, Rallick felt dwarfed by the man's armored frame. For his species, one of the tallest in the Federation, he was considered large and well-muscled. Hayes didn't seem to notice, or perhaps he was simply used to being the largest thing in the corridor. The Goliath loomed ahead through the observation glass, a behemoth of blackened steel, its hull bristling with weapons arrays, hangar bays, and reinforced armor plating thicker than most station bulkheads. Two more supercarriers lingered in the distance, their silhouettes hazy against the light of the nearby star, silent sentinels keeping watch. Inside, the humans' command deck was utilitarian, clean lines, reinforced stations, and practical efficiency. At the center stood Captain Elisa Vance, sharp-eyed and composed, projecting a presence that matched her ship. "Captain Thren," she said by way of greeting, "let's get straight to business. I want everything you know about the Dominion, where they came from, how long this war has been going on, which systems are in play, and how much ground they've taken." Rallick inclined his head, taking a moment before answering. "The Dominion first struck over 2,200 of your years ago. In the beginning, our fleets held them back. Their advances met with equal resistance. For centuries, the front lines shifted only by fractions of a system at a time." His expression hardened. "In all that time, we lost only 2 worlds, but in the last 4.5 centuries, we've lost 29 more." A subtle shift in the room's atmosphere told him the humans understood the weight of that statement. "And right now?" Vance pressed. 57 worlds are contested," Rallick said. "Some battles have raged for a century or more. Our people grow accustomed to wars without endings." Vance's brow furrowed. "How does a war last over 2,000 years? Rallick's mandibles flexed slightly, a Federation expression of hesitation. "In our history, battle for a planet is total, every city reduced to ash, every enemy driven into the sea until no resistance remains. But all our worlds are one continent. You take that continent, you take the world." Hayes chuckled. "If you're going to reduce everything to ash, why don't you just nuke it from space? What's the point of fighting over it?" Rallick's face showed confusion. "Nuked from space? Battles are fought on the ground." Captain Vance interjected. "You mentioned one continent. That's interesting. The few worlds we've found with life all had one continent. Every other planet is a dead world." "Yes, that's how the universe works. One continent for life to grow. You will not find a planet with life on anything other than one continent," Captain Rallick replied matter-of-factly. "It is the way things are." Hayes looked up. "Earth has 7 continents." Rallick's eyes widened in unfeigned shock. "7? Yup," Hayes said casually. "And dozens of different climates, cultures, and environments, all on one planet." That, Rallick took a step back, trying to process it. "In 10,000 years of Federation history, I've never heard of such a thing. By all accounts, this should be impossible for life to exist on your world. How does that not fracture a planet beyond repair?" Hayes gave a humorless smile. "It did. Repeatedly. We fought wars against ourselves for thousands of years before we ever went to the stars." The statement was met with silence. The Federation aides recording the exchange paused, glancing between one another in disbelief. Rallick finally spoke. "No known species has ever gone to space while killing itself. It is counter to survival, counter to nature." "Guess we missed the memo," Hayes said dryly. "Thing is, we've been fighting so long, we got good at it. The only difference now is our enemies aren't human anymore." Captain Rallick Thren stood in silence. Vance broke the pause, leaning forward. "Then, maybe we can use that experience. But first, Captain Thren, I need maps, fleet movements, and your best projections of Dominion strength. We'll decide our next move after that." Rallick inclined his head again, still reeling from the revelations, yet more certain than ever that these humans were unlike any ally or enemy the Federation had ever encountered. The briefing room aboard the Goliath was quiet except for the low hum of its engines. Rallick Thren sat across from Captain Elisa Vance and Lieutenant Commander Hayes, his posture straight, but his mandibles slightly flexing, the Caverick equivalent of unease. Hayes had been listening as Rallick outlined the endless grind of the Dominion War. 2,200 years of conflict, with battlefronts that had lasted lifetimes. 57 worlds were still locked in unbroken combat, some for more than a century. Rallick paused, then tilted his head slightly. I was told humanity fought a war against what you call the bugs for only 130 years. Is that correct? Vance gave a small nod. Yes. Rallick's eyes narrowed. How can you be certain they were eliminated in so short a time? Even if the infestation was in only 2 or 3 systems, the effort should have taken far longer. We have entire fleets locked in battle for generations against lesser threats. Hayes and Vance exchanged a glance, the kind that carried unspoken understanding. Vance leaned forward slightly. Captain Rallick, I think you misunderstand. When we found the bugs, they had spread to 167 systems, over 900 planets. Rallick froze. 167, 900 worlds? Hayes continued. The bugs didn't seem to care much about the one continent rule. They were on worlds that were completely dead other than for them. We cleared them. Every single one. The war ended 11 years ago. Since then, we've been hunting for any remaining hives. Haven't found one yet. That's the whole reason we're out here. Deep patrol. That's why we could even detect your distress signal this far out. The Federation captain sat motionless for several seconds. The information was almost beyond comprehension. 130 years. Total? 167 systems. Cleared over 900 planets? Please forgive me, but that seems impossible. He felt an involuntary ripple down his spine as the fur along his back stood on end. The bugs were so feared within the Federation that their designation, Red Zone 4828, carried an automatic, no-contact order. No research, no diplomacy, no engagement, no rescue. Did the Federation simply overestimate the bugs' capabilities, or were their estimates correct? If humanity had done this in barely over a century, then they were not just dangerous. They were something else entirely. Before Rallick could speak again, the comms officer's voice cut in, urgent. Captain Vance, we have multiple inbound contacts. 6 capital ships and 10 support craft just jumped into the system. Configuration matches the Dominion. Rallick straightened. I must return to my ship. Too late, Vance interrupted. You'll join us on the bridge. The Goliath's vast, multi-tiered command center buzzed with activity. Through the forward view screens, distant flashes marked where the newcomers had left hyperspace, their dark, angular silhouettes spreading like claws. Vance issued orders in a level voice. Leave Atlas to guard the Zephyr's Fang. Goliath and Tyrant will move to intercept. Begin fleet deployment. Full combat spread. The Goliath shifted course. Out the starboard view, Atlas, the supercarrier, peeled away to remain with the Zephyr's Fang. The other ships moved in tight with the Goliath, both venting their hidden fleets, a battleship, 2 destroyers, 2 cruisers, 3 frigates, and 10 corvettes each, sliding into position like blades drawn from their sheaths. The Dominion fleet appeared on sensors first, then to the naked eye. Jagged warships that looked less built than grown. The hail came through with a burst of static, followed by a deep, layered voice that seemed to reverberate in the skull. Open quote. Unknown vessels. You travel far from home. We see your size, impressive, but irrelevant. You are alone. Stand down. Surrender your Federation craft to us. It is ours by right. You will serve the Dominion. Your forms, your technology, your uniqueness will be consumed and added to our own. Resist, and you will be unmade. Your new masters await your submission. Close quote. The voice lingered a fraction too long, like a predator refusing to blink. Vance glanced at Rallick. The Federation captain simply stared, wondering how a species that had eradicated the bugs in 167 systems would respond to such a threat. Vance stepped forward to the comm station, her voice calm but edged with steel. This is Captain Elisa Vance of the United Earthship Goliath. We don't know you. We don't like your tone. And we don't like your intentions. Stand down, or we will put you down. 2 lone human vessels suddenly became an armada, their fleets locking into formation, engines burning bright against the void. Vance didn't wait for another word. Target the lead ship. Cripple it. Destroy the rest. Aye, Captain. The order rippled through the Goliath's decks, and the entire human formation moved as one. Energy signatures flared as rail cannons, coil guns, and beam lances locked onto targets. The first volley struck like a planetary bombardment. Two Dominion escorts vanished in expanding spheres of plasma before their shields could cycle. The remaining support craft scrambled to reposition, but the Goliath's battleship escorts cut through them with surgical precision, each kill a single decisive strike. The lead Dominion capital ship shuddered violently under concentrated fire, its hull rupturing along one side. System lights flickered across its length as life support and weapons grids collapsed. The rest of the Dominion formation tried to wheel away, but the humans pressed forward, relentless, methodical, and impossibly fast. Within 7 minutes, the battle was over. Lead ship disabled, Captain, the tactical officer reported. Reactor output dropping to minimal. They're dead in the water. Vance stood at the center of the bridge, hands clasped behind her back. Good. I want their captain alive. Ready an intercept team. I'd like to have a chat with our new friends. Chapter 8. Dominion Perspective. The world beyond the fractured viewport was chaos. Archlord Vikul's secondary heart slowed as he assessed the damage reports. Bad, but not fatal. Yes, his ship was crippled. Yes, his fleet was gone. But over 95% of his crew still lived, and the engines would be repairable given time. The humans had been too efficient. They had dismantled his vessel with precision, targeting systems and reactors instead of life support. That choice would prove their undoing. He still had the Grask aboard. 30 of the towering brutes stood somewhere in the lower decks, each 8 feet of thick-boned muscle bred for one purpose, to kill. They were slow, true, and their minds dull, but unstoppable once unleashed. Alongside them were others, specialists bred for speed, heightened senses, or unending endurance. None were freeborn. All were Dominion-crafted, designed to serve and die at their master's command. The humans would come to board his ship. That was the obvious next move for a species that relied on intellect and engineering over physical strength. The Federation had always been the same, weak of body but clever of mind, leaning on warrior species to do their fighting. These humans were likely no different. The boarding would be a slaughter. The Grask would make short work of them. Archlord Vikul's tusked mouth curled into a satisfied grin. His masters would reward him well, for the capture of alien technology, for the delivery of an entirely new species to be bent to the Dominion's will. The humans' massive vessels and devastating weapons would be remade in the Dominion's image, wielded by those who truly understood the art of eternal war. Docking to his ship would seal their doom. The Dominion flagship hung dead in space, its escorts reduced to clouds of debris. On the Goliath's command deck, the air was steady but charged, victory in the air, yet unfinished business ahead. Relic stepped closer to the central display, eyes on the crippled ship. Captain Vance, he said evenly, be advised, the Dominion uses the Grask, large shock troopers. 8 feet tall, dense bone structure, bred for endurance and sheer strength, they're dangerous in close quarters. Captain Elisa Vance's gaze stayed on the tactical overlay. Appreciate the warning, Captain Thren. Still, compared to the bugs, they don't sound like much trouble. From his post at Tactical, Lieutenant Commander Hayes smirked. Without my power armor, they might actually make me work for it. Vance glanced over her shoulder, a trace of amusement in her tone. Let's not test that theory. She straightened. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, you'll lead the boarding operation. Yes, ma'am. Hayes was already moving toward the lift, calling his strike team to muster. Relic watched him go, fur along his neck bristling. In the Federation, boarding a Dominion vessel was an act taken only with grim resolve and a readiness for heavy casualties. The humans approached it like they were just cleaning up. The boarding teams assembled quickly, efficient, and silent as the Goliath closed on the crippled Dominion flagship. Captain Vance gave the final orders, calm but firm. Prepare for boarding. Remember, we're after intel and technology, and I want their captain alive. But don't underestimate the Grask. Lieutenant Commander Hayes nodded grimly, his power armor gleaming under the harsh lights as he led his strike team toward the docking bay. Deep within the shadowed corridors of the Dominion ship, Archlord Vikul paced his command chamber, eyes flashing with fury and calculation. The hull trembled as the human vessels approached, but his crew was nearly intact, over 95% survival. 30 Grask, 60 Skur, 40 Equal, and 100 Ethel, each engineered to serve the Dominion to their final breath. They think they can take us, he growled, glancing at the towering Grask assembled behind him. Each stood 8 feet tall, thick-boned, and relentless in obedience. Slow, yes, but unstoppable once engaged. Their technology may be clever, Vakul mused, but their weakness is clear, their bodies. They will break on our blades. He straightened, voice cold steel. When the boarding party arrives, teach these fools a lesson. Show the Dominion is not so easily defeated. This ship, these species' secrets, they will be ours. As the airlock hissed open, Archlord Vekul's grin was sharp, deadly, and full of dark promise. Chapter 9. The boarding Archlord Vekul's ship was crippled, but far from dead. His crew still filled the corridors, 95% alive, armed, and waiting. The towering Grask lined the main choke points, lace bone plates catching the crimson wash of emergency lights. 8 feet of muscle and stubborn will, bred to smash through barricades and absorb energy fire until their enemies collapsed from exhaustion. This boarding would be their finest hour. Then the sensors screamed. Not one boarding signature. 4. 3 human craft latched onto his ship's hull in seemingly random locations. The 4th struck the airlock. Moments later, the sound came. Metal tore. Hull plates peeled open like fruit skin. Archlord Vekul's jaw tightened. Why cut through a wall when there's a perfectly good door? Unheard of tactic. Sloppy, reckless, dangerous. And then the humans came. They didn't just move in, they flooded the corridors. All wore massive, angular Battletech armor, every plate reinforced with overlapping fields and kinetic shielding. They moved like a single organism, each soldier covering the others, weapons tracking in smooth arcs. The noise of their guns was physical, a pounding thump, thump, thump that vibrated through the bulkheads. Mass accelerator rifles spat tungsten slivers, each shaved from an internal block and hurled at railgun speed. Eezo fields made them feather-light in the barrel, yet they struck like meteors. Every hit tore through Grask bone plating, armor meant for heat and plasma, shattering it like brittle pottery. The unlucky ones were spun sideways, half their chest gone. One Grask, massive even for his kind, roared and charged a human who had just dropped 3 of his kin. The human didn't fire. He slung his rifle to his back and squared up. The Grask's first blow cracked against the human's forearm plate with enough force to stagger him, servos whining as they absorbed the impact. A second strike came from the side, but the human blocked it again, planting his feet deliberately. Then he moved. His gauntlet shot forward, catching the Grask's wrist and twisting, using the alien's own momentum to send him sprawling. In one smooth motion, the human drew a short, wide-bladed combat knife from his thigh sheath and plunged it into the seam beneath the Grask's collar plate, one of the only unarmored joints. The blade sank deep. The Grask spasmed once, then went still. The human rose, wiped the blade on the dead alien's chest plate, and calmly returned to the fight. Archlord Vekul's command feed lit up with urgent kill reports. His ambushes collapsed in minutes. Precision crossfire cut down speedkin and sensorkin before they even reached firing positions. No hesitation, no wasted motion. This wasn't a battle, it was extermination. On the Goliath, Captain Thren sat frozen in his chair, eyes locked on a live feed from one of the human helmet cams. The carnage was clinical, terrifyingly so. Dominion soldiers broke and fled, chased down without mercy. Then came a burst of noise over the comms. Sharp, loud, almost playful. Laughter. Rallick's fur stood straight along his spine, his throat tightened. Are they enjoying this? He forced the question out. Captain Vance, forgive me, but the sounds I hear, is this how your kind releases fear? Elisa Vance glanced over from her command chair, one brow raised. Oh, that? Sorry, Captain. The boys are just enjoying themselves. They haven't had much of a chance to blow off steam since the Bug War. Just training and the odd pirate skirmish. This is something different. Rallick's mouth went dry. If he had less fur, someone might have noticed the blood draining from his face. Minutes later, the comms flared again. This is Hayes. Objective secured, hostile presence neutralized, all sweep zones clear. Bringing back our package for debrief and containment. Recommend we do more work like this. Kind of refreshing. Hayes out. Rallick stared at the channel indicator. mind spinning. Until yesterday, no one in the galaxy had ever heard of or met a human. Now, he wasn't sure anyone should. The chamber was cold, but Archlord Vakul's frilled neck felt hotter with each passing second. Two humans in full Battletech armor had deposited him here without ceremony, their armored boots ringing off the deck plates with the same certainty as an executioner's walk. The wall display came to life, showing chaotic, shifting footage, helmet cam feeds. Human soldiers tore through Dominion corridors with methodical precision, each armored figure labeled with alien glyphs he couldn't read, until one label was voiced over in his own tongue. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, Team 1, Sector 5, secure. Gunfire cracked like thunder. The Grask fell in heaps, their bone plating shredded by the high-velocity impacts of slivers too fast for the eye to follow. In one feed, a Grask lunged, only for the human to meet the charge, bracing with one armored forearm, then burying a short, vicious blade in the joint seam of its chest plate. It crumpled instantly. Archlord Vakul's mandibles clicked involuntarily. The door slid open. A tall human woman stepped in, her uniform and armor plates fitting like they belonged there. Even without the armor's bulk, her frame was solid, more muscle than most gene-forged Dominion males carried. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Captain Elisa Vance, United Earth," she said evenly. "I'm glad you could find the time to join me, Captain." His frill bristled. "Archlord Vakul," he corrected, his tone icy. "Ah, Archlord," she allowed, stepping closer to the table between them. "What you're hearing on these screens is my people doing what they do best. They haven't had a real fight since the bugs. This was them blowing off steam." Her eyes didn't leave his. The combat feeds kept rolling in the background, the laughter, the clipped, triumphant shouts, the kills, fast, surgical, final. She didn't threaten him. She didn't need to. Archlord Vakul could feel the weight of the humans behind her, silent and watching. The promise of violence was as solid as the deck under his feet. In the end, the words spilled out faster than he'd meant. Coordinates, fleet composition, a name. Vance's expression shifted, just barely, when he mentioned the sector. "Interesting," she murmured. "That's one piece of information the Federation never managed to prove. Looks like you just tied their mystery together." Archlord Vakul scoffed. "I doubt the Federation gave you their information on us so easily. Turns out Captain Thren was very happy to receive our help. He gave us all the information the Federation had on the Dominion. An interesting read, if I do say so." "It looks like we'll be doing the galaxy a favor by cleaning up the Dominion, Archlord," said a smiling Captain Vance. As the Goliath moved into position to scoop up the Dominion vessel, 5 Federation vessels arrived on long-range sensors. "This is Fleet Commander Violet Mang. I suggest that you leave that Dominion vessel to us. The Dominion are very dangerous." Captain Elisa Vance smiled to herself. "Fleet Commander, this is Captain Vance of the United Earth vessel Goliath. I thank you for your concern, but we plan on going through this ship quite thoroughly. We would be happy to send along our findings to the Federation." Fleet Commander Violet Mang replied, "That is unacceptable. The Federation hasn't captured a Dominion vessel in over 300 years. We want that ship." "I'm sorry you feel that way, Fleet Commander, but I do have my orders. The Dominion did attack us after all, and the ship is already docked within the Goliath. If you want, you can have your superiors contact the United Earth Alliance. I'm sure we can work something out. However, in the meantime, I will offer you our prisoner. I'm sure the Federation has laws for prisoners of war. We have an Archlord," said Captain Vance. "You have actually captured an Archlord? I suppose my superiors will be happy with this arrangement." Fleet Commander Violet Mang said, "Great to hear. Vance out." As the humans prepared to depart, Archlord Vakul was handed over, his mind still replaying the sound of human laughter over the gunfire. As the United Earth fleet broke formation, Vance's voice came over the open channel to the Federation ships. "Pleasure working with you. Let's do it again sometime." Her XO muttered beside her, "Making friends now, Captain?" She smirked. "Sure. Let's call them that."